Welcome to For the Love of Raw, your place for PMR feeding guidance. Canine Transition Guide for all life stages. Our transition guide has been carefully put together by dedicated and passionate raw feeders with a combined feeding experience of over 50 years. This guide has been used to help thousands of pets transition successfully into a prey model raw diet. Allow our experience to guide you and your pet through this amazing health transformation. Before we get started, let's go over a few important details. Before feeding raw, stop feeding kibble, wet food, and processed treats. Stop adding fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds if you have been including them in the diet. Doing so can cause GI upsets and even food reactions, making them difficult to address. It is not recommended to start puppies with complete balanced 80-10-10 meals. Puppies tend to adjust a lot quicker, so transition is completed in about half the time of young adults or adult dogs. Even puppies that are weaned to raw will have a transition period from their mother. As the puppy begins to wean, the mother will regurgitate her meal to start the pup's association with eating solid foods. When feeding senior or geriatric dogs, take into consideration that their gut biome has aged as well. The older the dog when switching, the more they can have difficulties with denser bones even without skin. These dogs do better with softer bones like neck, feet, and chopped up frames of small birds. Some older dogs can also have problems with too much fat in the diet, especially if they have become sedentary. In all ages, the speed of the transition is dependent on the consistency of the poops. You read that right. In this group, we avidly poop watch. Well-formed poops after the introduction of a new item or increase of a new item is the green light to continue through the steps. We do not recommend starting with any pre-made or complete meals until transition is complete, regardless of life stage. How much should you feed? Puppies are fed dependent on their age and their current weight. Daily feeding is also dependent on their age. Under 4 months, split into 4 or more meals. 4 to 6 months, split into 3 meals. 6 months to a year, split into 2 meals. 1 year or older, feed once or twice a day. It is important to weigh your growing puppy weekly in order to adjust to their growing needs, appetite included. Pay extra attention to growth spurts as they will require extra food during that period. What about adult dogs and seniors? Most adult dogs eat between 2 and 3% their body weight. Small breed adult dogs can be started at 3%. We live by the saying too much too soon and will enforce it during transition to avoid any issues. Step 1. For the first 3 to 5 days, feed boneless, skinless chicken, turkey, pork, loin only, rabbit, or you can start with green tripe. After 3 to 5 days, if poops are well formed, even if soft, you may begin to introduce soft bones at the full 10%. You may use raw meaty bones such as chicken necks, chicken breasts with ribs, or a form of ground soft bone. Small dogs and puppies should have their bones smashed some to help encourage chewing raw meaty bones. At the end of the week, you may start to introduce the more slightly dense form of bones, such as thighs, drumsticks, etc. Adjust bone percentage if necessary. Too soft of a poop means adjust for more bone, and too hard or dry, adjust for less. Step 2. Continue your introduction of bone along with your starter protein. This will allow more room for adjustment to be ready to start a new protein for week 3. If necessary, introduce in small doses an omega-3 oil of your choice from our recommended selection. This will allow for the balance of omega-6 and 3, help build the skin microbiome, and help address any skin issues like itching or redness. Step 3. Now it is time to introduce another protein such as beef, lamb, any of the remaining starter protein options, or whatever is easily accessible to you. Phase out the first protein throughout the week a little bit at a time. You may continue using the same R&B, or you can choose to introduce the R&B of the new protein. Start with 75% of your previous protein and 25% of the new one. If poops are good, move on to 50% of the previous protein and 50% of the new protein. Poops still good? 25% of your previous protein and 75% of your new protein. And if all is good, you should end up with 100% of your new protein. By the end of the week, the new protein should have replaced the first one entirely. Do not feed dense bones like beef bones, even if ground, as they are extremely hard to digest. Step 4 and 5. For these next 2 weeks, you should be introducing new proteins in the same fashion as step 3. One new one for week 4, another for week 5. The goal is to have successfully introduced 3 to 4 proteins. Remember, the more red meats, the better. Step 6. Time to introduce liver. Use only the liver of a protein you have successfully introduced. Start with the smallest liver, about the size of a fingernail, and work your way up to 5%, only increasing when poops are well formed. We suggest doing so extremely slow, as liver is jam-packed with nutrients and can cause loose stools if introduced too quickly. This could possibly take longer than a week. Please do not rush this step. Step 7. Time to introduce your other secreting organs such as kidney, spleen, or more. Introduce the same way as you did liver. Never feed extra liver to compensate for the missing second secreting organ. Last step. Stop feeding any omega-3 oils at this point of transition. Time to start introducing fish and eggs. Remember to introduce each slowly, one at a time, as to avoid any stomach upset. When feeding eggs, we recommend 2 to 3 eggs per week. This is for a medium-sized dog. Adjust for your pet's size. Fish is fed weekly. All fresh caught and store-bought fish should be frozen for 3 weeks to kill any parasites. Introduce fish allowance over several days until the entire recommended amount is fed. Congratulations, your dog is now officially PMR fed. Ask us about our raw meaty bones guide, our omega-3 oils guide, and our fish feeding guide.